leaders who are going to be with us as who are attending the session, but I must thank the leading ladies that we have today with us,
16 hours.
who are part of the whole chain which is driving the staffing industry, and they have been playing a very, very large role in their respective organizations, putting together the thought processes. And obviously we have to be thankful to the support system that we have and the leaders who are all championing us and leading us on, not just by giving us equal opportunities, but for the simple reason those opportunities are something that we are also gearing up to engage and ensure that the delivering of the roles responsibilities are happening. I have today a pleasure of doing a session which is going to be very, very different. And I'm thankful to Lohit for giving the opportunity to me to be the host of this session, and to the opportunity that most of the leaders of these leading ladies are going to be introducing them instead of me doing the introductions. So thank you so much, Paul, Mr. Tatavarti, Marcos, Shaji sir, and hopefully we'll also have some more people who will be joining in as a surprise to these ladies. And I'm looking forward to having a great session just after that. Lohit, may I request, as the president of Indian Staffing Federation, what is your take that our industry has so many women leaders, and yet there is a dearth of it? And I'm sure you are witnessing this from all angles. So if I could really request you to take this welcome address and restart the session for us. Thank you, Lohit.
First and foremost, thank you very much, Suchita, and warm welcome to everyone and for joining us on this special webinar that we have for our leading ladies in the staffing industry today. It's a bright and shining screen in front of me with everyone beaming, all of you. Thank you so much for all the amazing work that you do for your respective organizations and for the overall staffing industry in India. I just as a context setting as to why does the world really even celebrate this day? So somewhere in 1909, for the first time, I think women got together in parts of the world and they went out after for their rights and for women's rights and for making this a reality sometime into the future. It took another 2 years for half of Europe to realize that something like this is required. And somewhere from 1911 onwards is when some of the countries started giving Women's Day as an International Women's Day to be celebrated, and possibly the benefit of giving that as a holiday in those countries as well. We don't have this as a holiday in India, but we definitely love to celebrate Women's Day as well. Uh, as luck would have it, we are 112 years into that day for the first time when this happened. And I think even now, after 112 days, we think that we need to celebrate this enough to realize that what more needs to be accomplished. Uh, I love to quote some data, so I'll leave all of you with some data today as well. India has even now only 19% women in workforce. Many organizations have taken it upon themselves to get to the point of 40%, and they are surely getting there. Some of the developed world and some of the countries in Europe are already above the 50% mark when it comes to women in workforce, and I think that's an aspirational number that all of us should go for. Another very dismal stat on this is that women in CXO positions are just 7%. And I think that's the question that one needs to ask. At least to the ladies on this group, I can assure you one thing. It's not because of the capability or the credibility of the women, but it's for the fact that probably men continue to run that race for 40 years, eventually to become a CEO. If you guys just stood around for 10 or 15 years, all of you would be CEOs. And probably the men will get run away from the center stage itself. So I think the most important aspect being that women play that great part in both personal and professional life. And possibly the fact that you allow men to work for something like, non-stop 35 to 40 years, for the guys to finally dream of becoming a CXO itself means that that's what a woman is all about. You ensure not just the home environment, but also the office environment, and allow so many men, to take on the extra amount of work. But I think if today Suchita and all of you put together can definitely throw some light on how do we attract more women, especially into staffing as an industry. How do we attract more women to come into leadership positions? How do you facilitate and how do we make the runway for our women to stay on for playing a longer innings, for playing a better innings, and for giving back to the staffing industry and to Indian professional environment? That will be something that all of us will be really encouraged to hear from each one of you. So without much ado, and thank you very much, Suchita, for putting up this great panel. Bhuvana from Randstad and Tapsi from Astute and Miss Panini and Sonal from GI and Deepa from Quest. And thank you very much to Suchita from our very own Indian Staffing Federation, our ED. I think another leading light and a leading lady for all of us. Thank you, ladies. It's been my honor and my pleasure to spend this time with you, to be part of the same industry that all of you are part of. And I hope and I pray that all of you go on to making great, career choices extremely well in both your personal and professional lives. And many women after you get attracted to staffing as an industry in India because of what they see and what they hear from you. Thank you very much. And over and back to you, Suchita.
Thank you so much, Lohit, for your kind words. But nonetheless, I think I appreciate the support system we have. And you and most of the leaders that I work with, I can't thank enough. I never had to think or struggle for an equal opportunity. I think I was always given the opportunities basis the merit. And that's what I think our staffing industry is all about. Today, in terms of the session, I think I have a very different introduction style, which I have never done it before. And I'm honored to have all the leaders and the CEOs who will be introducing not just by the designation, but their contribution of each of these ladies who have made to their organization and the reason they have been part of this session today. Not to say this is a limited list of leaders that we have, but today we are just starting something. And I would be honored if this is not a one time we are doing it for the day. We will try to see if we can do it much more repeatedly to have and create more role models for our industries, women who are pursuing careers and they want to aspire to do more in the industry. May I request Marcos? I know how tough it was for all of you to take out time. And if I could request Marcos to just have a little bit of an introduction, if you could hear about Sonal. Sonal Arora, who's the ED of GI Group India, from Marcos Segeder, who's the country head of India GI Group.
Of course, Suchita. Thanks for the intro. Thanks, Lohit, for the wonderful introduction. I cannot agree more with your words. Let me start first with a quote that I really like about Women's Day today. The quote goes like this: feminism isn't about making women strong. Women are already strong. Feminism is about changing the way the world perceives that strength. Let me say that I agree 100% to this quote. I believe that Women's Day exists only because for many people, a change in perception still needs to be done. And I'm very happy to say that this is not the case in our organization, in GI Group. And I believe I'm happy to know that it's also not the case in the organization that are represented in this event. But for many areas in our society, it is not the case. It is needed. So if for Women's Day is about changing the way the world perceives the strength of a woman, I think I will have a perfect ambassador for this assignment. Sonal Arora, as it was already introduced, is our executive director of a staffing business. She's the perfect combination of experience, know-how, resilience, and leadership. And she's definitely an example of professionalism and quality of work in our organization. Not only for women, for everyone. So I'm proud that you, Sonal, we are representing GI Group in this wonderful event. And I want to thank you about your contribution and the way you're working. Just please keep on working. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marcos. We are delighted to have Sonal on the panel with us. May I request Mr. Praveen Patavarti, who has joined us despite his trouble, and I know how much I've troubled him to get onto this panel, and I'm so thankful to have your time, sir. You are not only one of the leading CEOs and inspire, I mean, you provide so much of inspiration to so many, sir, from LHS India. May I request you to put in a few words, what is Panini's contribution in LHS, and how is it that she is shaping the dimension through her role into the company? Over to you, Praveen, sir.
Yeah, Suchita, thanks. See, the first thing is I don't go public at all. See, I haven't spoken much in public. I'm a pretty shy guy. So the very fact that I come here is because of Panini. So I'll just share a little about my perspective. See, we have been trying to work on this diversity space for almost 10 years, 10, 12 years. Since I joined this place, I've been here for almost 15 years. And honestly, today it reminds us how much more work has to be done. It's unfortunate that we still don't have leaders. We just have 5-6% at the leadership where they're women, and a lot of work to be done. And just reminds me today that so much work needs to be done, and so little has been done, and there is so much need to change our outlook towards women. Having said it, Pani has been with the company for almost 15 years. Some people ask her, she may not get job anywhere, but the fact is that she has done so many different assignments. She used to run our search practice for a long time. She did HR for one of the operating companies. Now she did HR for all the operating companies. She's been part of our initiatives in our CSR space. For us, CSR is not just a corporate responsibility, it is a part of our business. We take it as a responsibility as much as creating numbers. So she's been very much part of that. She's been a big role model for a lot of women in our company. As you know, in staffing, there's 70 to 80% are women, and she's been a great role model. She's brought up 2 lovely kids, lovely daughters, but till date, not even once in the last 15 years has she used her being a mother, a wife, a daughter of parents to come in between work. She's been a great role model for all of us in the way she comes to work, in the way she contributes, exemplary. I'm so very proud to have her speak and share a journey. And thank you once more for inviting me and sharing my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think this is the first time we have had you on the forum, and I'm completely blessed to have Panini be one of the first runners into this panel. And thank you so much. So I know it's a very tough time to pull out in the last minute, and all your leaders, all you have come to the forum only to encourage the women that we have who have shown the paths for many, and will possibly be leading to bring on more women to bring onto the paths in future. Thank you so much, sir. Next, but the surprise that we have, thank you so much, Paul, for joining. Paul is here despite the fact that till last minute we were not sure we could have you, but I know Bhuvana is very special, and we could not hear from anyone but from you about what is Bhuvana's role and her contribution into the organization that she represents, Randstad India. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you, Suchita. Well, Bhuvana is always there for me, so I need to be there for her. I really echo the comments that were made by my fellow leaders, and it's great to see Praveen on here. Praveen, we haven't met face to face. We've tried so many times, but it took International Women's Day to bring us together. Great to see you here as well. You know, an interesting story, huh? What a year it's been the past year. I actually had never met Bhuvana. We hired her. We went through the whole interview process and so on, hired her. She joined on as our head of marketing. I had never met her. In other words, it was done completely in a virtual manner. I think it's the first time in my career where I've brought on a very senior person onto my team who I'd never met face to face. So talk about the new world we're in. And I'm so glad that we have Bhuvana. Although she's been with us just for several months, she's made an amazing impact and has brought fresh perspective to Randstad, of course. And she came right in the middle of the crisis. And several of us on the call partnered up on the Safely Back to Work initiative, and Bhuvana was part of that and promoting it and ensuring that that it's being used for impact as well. You know, I echo what Marcos says as well. You know, I look at India is rising, and for India to truly rise, the women of India must rise. And so representing the men of Randstad and certainly the ISF, we are committed to enabling all of the women around us to shine, to be the best versions of themselves. And so I'm so pleased to be surrounded by talented women who continue to challenge us as well. I would add one more thing. I think the guys on this call would agree with me. Without the women in our lives, we would be a mess. If you left the world just to the guys, Lohit, you know we would be a mess, Lohit, right? So thank you to the women in our lives. Thank you, Bhuvana, for keeping us on track and focused, and for your guidance and maturity. And again, congratulations on International Women's Day, although I think we all agree every day should be Women's Day. But I really like this year's hashtag, Choose to Challenge, and you have our commitment that we will support you as you choose to challenge.
Thank you so much, Paul. That's very sweet and a beautiful way to introduce Bhuvana to us, because I'm sure we are all meeting her for the first time, even though we are part of the staffing industry. And most of all, I think it is to do with a lot of efforts that all of you have put into, you know, I wouldn't say give us the opportunity, but allow us to grow with you. Thank you so much, Paul, for your words. Moving on to the next leader that we have on the panel, Taapsee Chakraborty. I mean, she's a CEO in her own rights, and obviously she has struggled and reached this particular point. And I would be honored to have Captain Shaji Kumar to tell us what is her journey like and how has she been an integral part of growing Astute. Though she's a role model as part of the board, we have had a lot of interactions, but it will be lovely to hear from you, Captain Kumar.
Thank you, Suchita. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to introduce Taapsee. Echoing Paul, my personal perception is also that why reserve just one day to Lord Women who are the living embodiment and personification of life itself. In fact, in our Indian culture, we have always revered and held women in the highest esteem. And I'm digressing. I know you have me on a clock. Highest esteem because amongst all the gods, if you look at it, the finance, the defense, and what do you call it? Education is held by three women: Goddess Saraswati, Goddess Lakshmi, and Goddess Durga. Okay. Now, and I would also not say that you know, women's priorities are better than men's, but when women are empowered, when they can speak from the experience of their lives, they often address different previously neglected issues. And in retrospect, the families and the whole communities benefit. To introduce Taapsee, our CEO, I must say that we, you know, personally, I feel we cannot teach people anything. We can only help them discover it within themselves. The principle of living greatly includes the capacity to face trouble with courage, disappointment, and cheerfulness, and trial with humility. And this is what, you know, in one line, I can summarize what Taapsee is about. Many would not know Taapsee gave up a budding opportunity in public life. She was given a ticket to fight the elections in Delhi by the BJP. She let down people like Manoj Tiwari and I don't know, some other guy, Bhaduri, and all of them who were behind her. You know, why does she want to give it up? Because she was a certain winner. But instead, she probably took the toughest decision of her life in pursuit of business. And it was to my benefit that I could wean her away from politics to business. And it was advantage for Astute and my business. And she has the potential and checks all the right boxes which are essential to be a successful leader. Success is neither magical nor mysterious. You know, success is the natural consequence of consistently applying the basic fundamentals. And I'm quite satisfied and thrilled when the yardstick of measurement is laid and a protege is being actively wooed by competition to skip shift I can safely assume that this is one of the things that I've done right. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
Suchita.
Thank you so much, Captain Kumar. I think it's lovely to hear Tapsi's introduction. That's something that obviously we all aspire to hear from our leaders, that, you know, this is something that one should aspire to see in their team members. I wouldn't take too much time, but I have our next leader, Deepa Ganapati. She is the Vice President Quest IT Staffing. And we have the honor of having Vijay Sivaram, who has joined us despite his very, very tight schedule. And I know both Lohit and Vijay have to leave immediately, but Vijay, thank you so much. I know this is, I would call it my personal honor to have your time out of the schedule. And thank you so much to introduce Deepa.
Well, thank you so much, Suchita. Actually, it's quite on the contrary. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be amongst these lovely women. I think it's so amazing to hear their introductions. I'm feeling quite privileged that this industry, the staffing industry, has created such amazing leaders, and many of them have been around doing this for such a long time. So to all of you on the panel and to everyone listening, it's an absolute pleasure to just be amongst you. I think it's so great. I would love to have the opportunity to say hi, meet, understand the journey that you've had. I'm looking forward to rejoining in some time to see what these journeys mean to you and how they got you here. And Suchita, of course, if you call, we don't say no. So don't worry. So I think this thing, but to get to Deepa, I think I've known Deepa for a long time, close to, I think, a decade, if I'm not mistaken. Deepa is someone who runs the most profitable business within our unit, not just by pure scale of vertical, but also in terms of every single number, item, profitability metric that we follow. She runs and leads that, and it's an absolute pleasure to see Deepa doing so much at a very young age. And many of you might not know, but Deepa is also one of the most renowned badminton players in the state. She plays for multiple levels in the state, and she wins a lot of awards. She's also come in an Amazon ad, talks about how motherhood should choose passion also beyond work and follow principles. Deepa has worn so many hats, but more importantly, I think it's about how Deepa manages being a human. And I think that revives more kudos than anything else. She makes sure she keeps time for everyone, her family, work, teams. It's very hard to see attrition in a team. People stay with her, stick with her. I think every echo of a leadership usually comes through when you have Deepa around. So it's an honor, privilege to Deepa for me to be amongst you. And of course, to all the other ladies, especially all the men and the ladies behind them, like Paul mentioned. I think it's a privilege, honor. Really looking forward to the session once you're joining back. And thanks again for being there, doing what you do. And there's so much we all have to achieve together.
Thank you so much, Vijay. I think that's been a great encouragement, and I'm sure all the ladies have got their power doses now, besides what they already came prepared with. I'm sure the energy doses that they've got from their leaders. And the reason our industry is set apart from all other industries and most that we have witnessed possibly during our career, I think is the privilege of working with leaders who walk hand in hand with us. They show us the path, they show us the growth chart, and they treat us as possibly the winners in the next role. Now I think it's a good enough time that we have spent talking about all of you. And the reason we wanted to do this differently was the simple reason that most of our leaders of the staffing industry today know that they all have winners like you in their own organizations. However, we have very few role models who are coming out and talking in public, and they are also known for the efforts that they're putting in growing their own organization. Today, and with this webinar, we are just trying to put in a small little effort. How is it that we can create more role models, bring out more leaders, and women who are an integral part of our industry? How can we show a little bit of a path to them through what the journeys that all of you have had? I would start with Bhuvana, if you allow me. India is remarkably low on women participation in workforce, and that's a known fact. Unfortunate. However, staffing is among few industries which exemplifies a different story of women participation in our workforce. What has been your experience? What is setting our industry apart to encourage women to join?
Thank you, Suchita, and what a beautiful surprise that was for Paul. I was wondering, why is he here? what's he doing in this panel? But it was a good surprise, and I just told him that as well. And I think this is clearly one of the reasons where the men are so ready to jump on and be there as part of our journey, right? I think that kind of sets apart the staffing industry as well. Just to bring it back to the context. Just looking at the historical way of what happens in an HR industry, right? Initially, I'm saying, even way back, women were seen as this back end, easy to administrative kind of a profile. That's where this whole HR, industry itself started off. That's the history of it. But as you move forward, and I think even 20 years ago or 15 years ago, Suchita, when I was, opting for my MBA, right, people were asking, what are you going to do? I chose marketing because that's where my heart was. And I had decided in my 11th grade that I would do marketing. And my parents were super supportive. They were very encouraging, and they never stopped me from doing anything in my life. But there is this, the rest of the universe, right? Oh, you're going to take marketing. You'll have to travel. You'll have to go meet people. There's so much of, resistance to women doing something beyond what is defined by somebody else for them, right? So that's where you see this disparate, of women being in the labor force itself in India, right? So it's about, I think Lohit mentioned about 19% is of the total labor force in India compared to a 76% of men. Okay, so that's the numbers just for our consumption, right? And but in the staffing industry, it's kind of a natural thing that comes to women, right? They're very conversational, they're very intuitive, okay? And so recruiting comes to them very naturally. And again, just to step back, it's seen as a back-end work when you start off with, but you go and speak to anybody in the HR services industry, they know how hard it is, how difficult it is to, get one person recruited into an organization. It's not the easiest thing to do. You need to have multiple conversations. There's so much of energy that needs to go into it. And it's a combination of not just, human resource services, but also marketing and sales and everything put together, right? So the woman comes with that multitasking capability. And that's why I think it's a natural thing for them. This is not to, for me, it's not a comparison between men and women, Suchita. It's never been, right? So it's just about understanding each one's capabilities and putting the right person for the right job. So that's where this whole, staffing industry is kind of leading the way in bringing women up. And definitely, the ratio of junior at a junior level is very high. At a middle level also is pretty good. It's only later, like any other industry, as you were mentioning, at the CXO level, right, it kind of tapers and becomes a pyramid, and that needs to change. And that is changing. You can see right on this panel that you have the leaders here, and you have other leaders also in the industry, coming up and being that role model, speaking out in social forums, speaking out in other forums as well. So that's what is really required. It's also, if you see 70% of HR managers in India are women. I was talking about the middle layer, right? That's clearly because they're, really good with coming up to that level. They're really good with their communication. They're good with their relationship building. They're good with, kind of nurturing, which comes very naturally to women as well, right? And I'm not saying men are not. Okay, that's not the statement here. It's clearly women have that advantage, which is very natural. That's another thing. And 31% of chief human officers in India are also women, which is, but still is lower than other countries. So that's where India is kind of, slightly lagging behind. And but the interesting part that I've seen, and if you go across the table also, you will notice that the men in the staffing industry are actually leading the conversation on D&I as well. It's not just the women speaking for themselves, right? So that's the difference that I'm seeing. I have experience in advertising, marketing, I've been on the agency side, I've been on the enterprise side, I've been with other, large enterprises and small enterprises as well, where, the majority of the initiatives for women is taken by women. Okay, that's the experience that I have. And it's like, yes, men participate. Yes, men are part of it. Maybe in the last 5 years, men have been very actively participating in this whole, raising the flag for women, right? But in the staffing industry, which I have experience of even as handling PR for them way back, right? I've seen the women actually leading the conversation to an extent, and also men leading the conversation. They kind of advocate for those entire leadership positions for the women. So that's, I think, is a key difference, Suchita. Anywhere where both, everybody comes together and starts an initiative or is part of an initiative and advocates for it, I think it grows in strength. And that's clearly the advantage we have in the staffing industry. Back to you.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And it possibly started with the Sati Pratha. And I think one of the pioneers was a man who took a challenge upon himself to actually call it out and get it removed. And from that time onwards, we realize it's not just the women who have to talk and be the voice for their independence, but it is also the support that we have in the society, in the system. And men, definitely, we are not playing it against them. We are playing it with them. And a lot of places, I think it is the narrative which has also been from the time eternal, has been very different for us to differentiate what should be the priority a woman leader should have or a woman should have to pursue. It just seems very unnatural for women to ask for a financial independence. And I think a lot of people kind of misjudge a financial independence to being arrogant and defying the norms of the society. I think while we are at this subject, I will turn it a little towards Deepa, where I know that you brought in this point that, as we go up the ladder, the leadership roles ratios seem to be very different. If Deepa, if I could ask you about this particular thing, what are the stereotypical challenges women need to address additionally to prove themselves? What can we do as an industry to adapt and attract women leaders, considering that it is kind of tapering at the top when it comes to the leadership roles? Over to you, Deepa.
Thank you, Suchita and ISF team for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and share screen space with these wonderful ladies who are achievers in their own field. So on that note, I would like to thank ISF as well for hosting this event, Women Leadership Shaping Indian Staffing Industry. I think it's really important for us to recognize women leaders and thereby encourage many young, aspiring women professionals to advance and excel in their career. This industry is extremely evolving. I think I could say probably evolving every day. In general, I think overall the perception of staffing industry or staffing as a service has changed. Be it full-time hiring, or it could be just-in-time hiring. Staffing remains the backbone of every single organization in terms of their services, their outcome, irrespective of the gender. But then I think, when we look at the overall percentage, staffing industry has contributed significantly, towards the economy of the country, the growth of the country, and some of the best talent acquisition specialists, like, Bhuwana was mentioning that the HR managers are mostly women. I think, that's definitely very significant there. But then, so there is absolutely no gender gap when you look at the bottom of the pyramid or the mid-level of the pyramid. However, like you rightly said, as we go up the ladder, the ratios are not very appealing, and it's not very particular to this industry alone. I think it could be across all industries. And there are several instances where women are at, constantly at crossroads. They are forced at times, or there are situations where they make a choice, like, it could be relocation due to marriage. It could be a choice post maternity. It could be also a situation of being the primary, care provider at home. So, and there are, there could be various situations like that. There are several instances where, I think women kind of will have to probably think twice before really taking up a responsibility ahead in their career. So work-life balance should ideally be a non-issue when you do things just for the love and joy of it, whether at home or at office. I would say that we are today in an environment where there is immense pressure to perform, and there are extraordinary expectations from everybody. It could be from your team members, your colleagues, your customers, your stakeholders, could be from anybody. So I think under a situation like this, as an industry, I think it is a collective responsibility. I think to create an equal, and inclusive environment. Of course, I think staffing industry is extremely open, and we have diversity and inclusion at a significant level. But I think, from here on, I think it's not about really, empowering women. I would say it is about advancing them. Each of us here have a role to play when we look at it by encouraging, and developing women leaders, maybe through having a mentorship program. It could be grooming talent. It, by, I think, virtue of the nature of women, we are very strong at negotiation skills, business acumen, empathy, intuitive skills, emotional intelligence, agility, and planning, right? So I think we should focus on enhancing these skills. We should also, at a workplace, we could probably, of course, today the organizations are extremely cognizant and are probably, working towards enabling a very strong and robust support system. I think the most important one is also to address pay parity. I guess that is a very, a taboo topic, not really discussed in many, forums. But I think, having said that, there are many women leaders who have established themselves, have got a strong foothold. They're doing extremely well. It could be in various forums, like it could be business heads, it could be CEOs, it could be, executive directors. But then we also see very few women CFOs in the industry. It could be a lack of visibility issue as well. So, for me, I think, when I see these amazing, successful women having both a career and personal life, I think it is completely to do with, how much we are willing to go forward. I would just say that, we rise together only by lifting each other up. So I think this industry has done phenomenally well, and I think a little more mindfully probably driving these initiatives and continue to offer various engagement programs would definitely help many young aspiring women professionals advance their career. Over to you.
Absolutely. I think I agree with you on a lot of points, and for sure, while we might be talking about how and where women leadership can actually just move forward and show light to many others, not only just in our industry, for every industry. We have to come out and speak. And with that, I think I have a very interesting question for Panini, because I'm sure, Panini, you have been having this question asked to you many a times, and in a very different dimensions, which is due to the role. That as a HR leader, you have witnessed shaping of many of these leaders in your tenure. What will you say are the strengths that come as a woman leader that is important for staffing industry?
Oh, sorry for the alarms going off. So first of all, I think thank you, Suchita, for creating this forum. And as I address this question, I address it to probably a lot of young women who are out there, who might be listening in, right? And so when I look at this question you asked, I want to break it down into into levels, into layers. The first one is a much more broader framework to which I want to see that what is the strength of a leader? What is the leadership strength that is truly valued today, or that is coming in prominence today, right? And then look at it as what is the strength for women in staffing industry, women leaders in staffing industry, right? So when we look at strengths in leadership, there is this thought process, there is this thought that is gaining providence that leadership skills and leadership traits are at the very top. There's a convergence. As you're growing and evolving in your career, yes, there are gender differences in leadership traits and leadership strengths, but right at the very top, there is convergence. So it doesn't. So when you look at the great leaders at the top, they display very similar traits and strengths, irrespective of whether they're men or women. Right? And there's a beautiful Confetti publication on this, which talks about world being flat. And so that's the first point to it. The second point to it is, what are these leadership strengths? And how does it relate to women in staffing? So the leadership, very much like what Deepa said, are empathy, collaboration, courage, ability to build trust across diverse groups, and agility. right? It's very softer skills that are truly valued today. So when you look at women, forget women in staffing industry, women in general, you will see that these traits are our natural strengths. You know, we can, take the strength of empathy, for example. This is a natural strength for women. We naturally, automatically tune into the emotions of others. We listen with all our senses. We just don't hear, we listen through all our senses. We pick up underlying emotions. We pick up the body language. We intuitively pick up what is not being said. Picture yourself talking to a friend when her chips were down. The way you came across that person. And if you connect that to staffing industry, picture yourself talking to a candidate who's in between jobs, or to the candidate who's aspiring to grow in the career. That's empathy in action. Right? Look at the strength of courage. Right? So there's a quiet strength in women, which is the quiet courage, not the chest thumping courage, but the quiet courage that makes us the rocks for our family. And when you think about it, think of it for all the times that you would have stood up for your family as young women, stood up for your family, and then you're forged ahead. And if you look at recruiting and staffing industry, picture yourself picking up the phone and telling a candidate that they didn't make it the job. Or when you're talking to the hiring manager and you're explaining exactly why you're not able to attract the right people to the job. I mean, that's courage in action, isn't it? If we take the third very important trait, which is ability to build trust. I mean, women are typically known to be peacemakers and confidants at work and home. We can easily build trust with people, and we know what's the value of it. You just have to think of all the friends who have sought you and sought your counsel and poured their hearts and shared their secrets, knowing that it is safe with you. And as a recruiter in the staffing industry, you are negotiating the salaries for people. Or as an account manager, you are working with a deployed employee to move the person from one role to another in a way that is win-win for everyone. And that's building trust right there. And as far as agility goes, I mean, agility is in our jobs. We change our sourcing strategy sometimes several times through a requirement process. And for women, I mean, you just have to think of the many roles that you play in your lives. It is agility all the way through. So I may be oversimplifying here, Suchita, but I just want to drive home the point that women naturally have what it takes to, they naturally have those strengths that are now considered essential leadership strengths. So if you are a part of this industry, whether you're a man or a woman, then you are getting to practice these skills every day, right? And if you are a woman in staffing industry, then, well, you're truly blessed, double blessed. So that's the way I see it.
Thank you so much, Panini. I think most of the people who are listening in today, not only through the participants, but also from our live Facebook that it is going, they're all not really understanding to question the leadership the women can have possibilities for, but also getting to understand that what skills do they have which can help them to become leaders of tomorrow in this industry. I think our industry celebrates those particular skills that women naturally come with, and also to be able to hone what skill and what point of time in your leadership journey will be able to give you the excellent results. Depending on at every level, you have a very different skill that needs to come to the fore as an open. And with that, I think we have the best of the examples coming here. And thank you, Tapsi, for being part of this session. I'm really honored to put across this question because I know I've heard it many times in a personal chat with you. So we all here as women, we have to shoulder extra responsibilities. And that's when it becomes a tough call balancing. you must have reached here because of great determination and grit. How did you manage being mother, daughter-in-law, and all of those roles you play in your personal life and still succeed as CEO?
First of all, thank you so much, Suchita. And thank you so much for a lovely surprise. And what about the work-life balance? That work-life balance means something different to everyone, right? But we all need that the best we can, like both at work and the personal life, right? So about me, I have certain criteria. I have to maintain those things. Like play with your strength. Like do not try to be all things to the for the all peoples, right? Focus on your strength. If you don't have this type of quality, in that case you have to outsource in your working areas. Like if you want a graphic designer and you don't have that much ability, you can do outsource also, right? Prioritize your time. You may have to-do list. You have to know about your time, which is urgent, which is unimportant, which is important. So you have to focus, and you have to do which is the important first, and after that you do unimportant, right? Plot some personal time. Like when you have personal issue arising, it can be the tempting to bury yourself in your work. Do not, like, don't make time for your always the professional. You have to do some me time, like personal time you have to set. And apart from this, manage the time for the long term. Like create some timeline for your activities specific. Like the computer programs can it help you. You can customize Excel spreadsheet, word table, etc. You can do it. Like tap into the technology. Instant the driving the meeting, your Skype and conference technology like GoToMeeting. You have to, whenever you have the bedtime, you can switch off all your mobile and all your electronics items, so that you can inhale yourself. Apart from this, I can say that know nature of your network. Like prioritize your growing your network. You have to structure lead and conversation system, place to do the track on time, and cost involved in grow your network also. So do what you love. Like make time for something what you love other than the work, right? Like I love dancing, I love singing, right? So I do in my when I feel that I'm tensed, and in that time I just go to home and speaker on, and after that I can start dancing. So you can do, because I think it's also good for health also. Be realistic. Like at the end of each day, perform a little self analyze. Ask yourself what worked today, what is do wrong, what is done, what is not done. Remember, there are all the thousands of the business, just like you are learning the same lessons of every day. Don't forget to tap into the valuable resources around you, your peers, etc. So you can go holidays if you have like you can take a break time. Remember, to all the time throughout the work, it's not possible, right? Some tasks are easier than others. So if you find yourself and help, like hour sleep and realistic time for effort to rest, and you might not have time every day, simple sit be. Yeah, so sometimes but you do not the best give yourself like the lunch break. You make a point of getting up the searching for yourself 15 minutes. It's help for you only. So have a holiday time, make time for the holiday, book a break, list at least a weekend you can do. So and you can prioritize your time for the family, which it's a very necessary, like so these all are the, if you are maintaining, then you can balancing your work life as well as the professional life. I do actually like this.
That's a brilliant thing. I think most of the people are going to ask after the session to you, how do you get the time to do that?
Yeah.
But I think we have to address one of the points that you have also um, put across very nicely in your answer, is that you have chosen to aspire and you have developed the skills as per your choice. But let me ask this to Sonal. Does our societal narrative for women in general allow them to choose to aspire, develop skills of their choice, or are defined by the narrative what they should excel at? Is there something that can be done different in our workplace to change this narrative? Most people say that, change will start at our home. So all the leaders who have joined today to listen into us, can we leave them with some thoughts?
Sure. First of all, thanks, Suchitra and ISF for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful panel of, all successful women. It's indeed my privilege. Now, coming to the question of choosing to aspire, of course, societal narrative plays, I would say, a very important role, because even when, a woman is a young girl, she is being constantly fed directly, indirectly through various, in media, what she should do or what she cannot do, or what rather she can do and what she cannot do, and that actually shapes her perception of what she wants to do. So societal narrative, is not a problem that can be resolved in, I would say, a few years or even a few decades. It's a problem that has to be attacked from all sides. But what we can do within our workspace, and what, fortunately for staffing industry, I would say that societal narrative has worked to its advantage, because it is that societal narrative which actually tells women that go into industries like HR, because they are probably more conducive to work-life balance, and you can have a better work-life balance than, let's say, going into manufacturing or going into financial services or becoming a lawyer. So of course, for the staffing industry, it's like it's like a silver lining to the cloud. But having said that, as Bhuvna also mentioned, that while at the entry level there are a lot of women in the industry, and the pyramid does really become very narrow at the top, and usually, all pyramids do become narrow at the top. I mean, that is after all the basic definition of a pyramid. But still, the fact that at every level, we lose women talent and they don't aspire to go to the next level, is something where within our organizations, I think we can work on, have more leaders within business functions, have more leaders at every level within our organization, teach, our, young talent who's joining our organization, people at who are just starting their career, mentoring them, teaching them that, it is okay to aspire. And if you don't want to aspire, if let's say, you don't want to become a business head or a CEO, that's also fine. But there is an option available. Most women don't even think, because they have been conditioned to kind of, ensure that life remains a little comfortable so that they can manage work life better. But as Tapsi also shared, you don't necessarily have to compromise. You can do both. You just have to probably become better at balancing, and that is where mentors, role models will help them believe in themselves and make it as a conscious choice. It should be ultimately, something that they should consciously choose, that yes, I want to take my career beyond a certain level, or I don't want to take a career beyond that level. And I'm okay with, what I'm doing right now, and I'm quite content, which is also fine. But if I want to go beyond, if I want to say, let's say, become a CEO of my company or any staffing company in next 10 years, what are the skills that I need to have? I'm maybe good at certain things, but I need to work on certain other things. And if I cannot be good at those things, I need to learn how to outsource it. So, this is where I think a leadership development and a mentorship framework within our organizations is very critical. And I'm sure most of us already have it. But formalizing it, encouraging young joinees to look at the next steps of their career, how they can grow within their organization, grow within the industry, and the fact that, they can grow as much and as far as they want to grow, giving them that conviction and that belief is what I feel is, really going to help us take the contribution of women in the staffing industry to the next level. Though, of course, there is no doubt that when it comes to helping women leaders develop, staffing industry is by leaps and bounds much further than other industries. But I do hope that other industries whom we regularly interact with also, take it as an example and try to emulate the same within their own organizations.
Absolutely agree with you. I think most of the points are bang on, Sonal. In fact, I think one of the confusion women have is mostly when you think of career, you think of compromising. I think the word compromise and career for women have kind of become synonymous to each other, which I think we need to get out of that mindset, because career means something that is helping you develop a different arena of your workforce, work skills, and also making you financially independent. Today, we are very happily dependent on our fathers, on our husbands, or our men who are going to take care of us. I think we forget to take care of ourselves. Even in our personal lives, I don't think taking care of our health is a priority. Taking care of our any of our needs is a priority. So I think as a society, the dimension and the narrative for women is take care of others. And in lieu of that, you forget to take care of yourself. I think the necessity is to take care of yourself, be it financially, health wise, or from a perspective of your own needs. And Tapsi and all you ladies have put it across so beautifully. I think I have very less time. So I'll do a fire chat round with all of you. And possibly in about a minute, if I can get your response, because most of it we have I've just picked it up from what you have already said. But these are going to be questions I'm sure a lot of the ladies who may not be able to ask us in this forum. But let's try and address some of it. The first topmost question. Most women feel guilty if they want to grow in career, as that may seem as coming at the cost of being a bad mom. Tapsi, what would you say about this? How many times has that guilt
Yeah,
eaten you
well,
up?
struggling between personal and professional life, work-life balance is the most of the major concern of the woman, right? Especially for working mother. As a mother, I, juggle between the sleepless night and early morning, toeing around the house and making sure that the tremble over all the Lagos, and sometimes managing to get all the important board meeting, right? The journey make you learn the art of the multitasking. So be organized, be well planned, be honest. Women have enormous responsibility and extended tasks, like there is a lots of list, right? So in my family, like my mom, my dad, my husband has helped me a lot. Most of all in the time, most of time I am in out of Delhi. In that case, my husband take care of my son, take care of my family, and the various responsibility, right? So actually he always guided me, and I did not never felt guilty in the way.
And then let's just say that you are possibly 1% of the lucky women, but I'm sure not many women are as lucky as you are. And we hope that the people who are listening into us today can provide that support system that you have been also been given when you are in need. I think it has to be a balance between a man and woman to provide support to each other to, reduce the guilt, if I may say. I'm sure a mother can never get out of that guilt, no matter what they do. Sonal, quickly to you. Leadership positions looks very attractive from a distance, the liberties and benefits that come with it, and the highlight of being a power person at that particular level. But when most start coming closer to it, they start questioning if it's all worth the sacrifice that they have to do.
So again, Suchita, it's a matter of what is important for you, and I think probably I would replace the word sacrifice with the word trade-off, because ultimately nobody, not even a man, can do everything every day. We are all given a limited amount of time on a daily basis or in our careers, and we have to choose. So somewhere, it's about making choices. Yes, for women, the choices are harder because especially Indian society places a lot of family responsibility on women as daughters, as wives, as mothers. So yes, the choices are harder. It becomes a little easier if one has a good family support system, or I would say if a support system at work. But ultimately, it is about making choices, and what Tapsi also said, that about prioritizing the way we work, about knowing what is important for us, it becomes a little easier to choose comparatively. So knowing what we want and how important it is for us, and sometimes we have to sacrifice, sometimes we may have to sacrifice one promotion because that particular year family is more important, Sometimes we may have to settle with less time with family because maybe that business trip is more important. So it's about making trade-offs. And I think the important thing is to acknowledge that society should not put any expectation on women on what trade-off they should make. Each woman should decide for herself. That's what I would say.
I think that's a very fair take on this. Quickly going to Panini on this, one that has come from her input. Do you have many women who come up to you and ask, what does it take to be a leader? Do you see them in a self-doubt as they can't see themselves as a leader? And what can organizations do to support women to overcome this self-doubt?
Okay, so I think the first thing is I would like to tell our women to know that self-doubt, that voice in your head that tells you that you don't have enough skills to aspire for the role. You're not yet enough trained to ask for the promotion, or that requirement, that JD, the job, asks for 10 things, but I have only 6. How can I apply for it? That voice is real. Okay, so I think that's the first thing, because women feel that only in their heads this voice is there, right? No, it is there in a lot of women. It's, if I would say if I had to pick up one thing, I think this will be that one all-pervasive thing. Okay. Second, it doesn't go away with accolades and promotions. It doesn't go away. You can see this voice and the self-doubt there right at the entry levels as well as women on the top. So this is called inner critique. And this inner critique is a pervasive thing that I think fundamentally stops women from aspiring for larger roles. And if I had to say very quickly, what can women do? The first thing is tune in, self-awareness. Tune into this voice, listen to what it says. In fact, write down what it says, because it's a repetitive thing, right? And then be your own cheerleader. Replace that voice with more self-compassionate voice, more self-love that tells you that you can do it, that you are good enough for this. So that's what I would say very quickly, Suchita.
That's true. Believing in yourself is one of the traits that most of the times we have to do it for ourselves. And even though we are the ones who are asking for some kind of support system, at sometimes you have to be your own support system. It depends on what you want. Quickly going to Bhuvana, what are some of the talent challenges for growing women into leadership roles? What do you perceive as, what are the challenges we need to overcome, the women audience who are listening to us?
Yeah, sure. Sujita, I think all of us know that, you need to raise your hands, first of all, and very high as well, right? And it's not just the women raising their hands, but we must also place equal focus on employers to take that action and fix the problem. I think that voice needs to come out, that vocalness, needs to start happening now. And companies also need to, have policies around breaking down the gendered career paths, like so women don't get stuck in job silos, that's another thing that needs to happen. And I think retention, right, and succession and addressing the skill gap in committing to inclusion are some of the ways organizations can challenge the status quo. That's the second thing. And by being explicit, right, having policies around where to help women progress, having that skill, training and experience to manage and drive the business and technical and operational positions or business positions as well, kind of groom them to lead those paths as well will be a great one. And it's not, all of us know it's not lack of campaigns, right? It's not lack of awareness that we are in this state. Women in STEM, Press for Progress, Women Crush Wednesday, blah, 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 so many things happening. But I think it's about, actually, measuring that action, real action and progress. That's where the thing. And I think another forum I was mentioning that this needs to start at the base level of education level and addressing the double gender skills gap in STEM or, any of the areas that we are expecting growth in India. And plenty of companies, spend time in, hiring more diverse workers, right? But without a clear plan to develop and keep them, that talent and skilling plan needs to be there. And that's where the culture actually and work models also come in, right? So creating that environment is not enough, but the cultural aspect of it also needs to be taken care of. And single most thing that, kind of, I'm saying not just from, a diverse culture, but also from a talent perspective, is to have that conscious inclusion in every aspect of the organization. That needs to start happening. And I think it's time to, not take it any more slow. And I hope the next year's discussion is not going to be on what, how, when, and what is the progress that is being made. And I think this year will be a great one if we can get into an acceleration mode, across industries. And I really believe that the staffing industry has got the power, and the women in the staffing industry have the power to lead the way for other industries as well, and show them, how it can be done.
Absolutely. While the best chefs in the world are men, I am sure we take pride that the best in the staffing industry are, though not named, but I'm sure they will be the women who are behind many of the men who are also succeeding. Moving to Deepa, what kind of organization culture particularly nurtures women? In your view, what are the strengths that you bring to the table that are different from those of your male colleagues? Because that's one of the important things most of our women leaders or women who are part of this industry would like to understand.
Thank you, Suchita. That's a very interesting question. In fact, when you look at the kind of culture that, probably particularly nurtures women, I guess every organization has a role to play in developing and nurturing individual talent to explore potential. Each one of us are talented. Each one is talented. However, I think one really has to have the belief in the power of self. This talent should not be left untapped. Many initiatives that the organizations take in the form of diversity and inclusion. It could be flexible working hours. It could be in-house creche. It could be return to work program. And even for that matter, I think encourage continuous learning. All these go a long way in supporting and empowering women and advancing them. So I think that's the culture that I would look at. It also heavily depends on how the leadership is cognizant and willing to commit and drive it. Just not as an initiative, but then do it every day so that it becomes a part of their DNA. So I think that is going to be a culture that will definitely finally see the results of having, I think, many women leaders emerging out of an organization like that. So I think that's the culture to celebrate individual values and talents without any bias. That will have a very significant impact, I would say. And finally, it all boils down to how far, how much one aspires and how far she's willing, to go. The willingness to push, herself despite all the adversities. I think that really makes or breaks the deal. I think that's also to do with how flexible their environment is, how compassionate the manager is, how how conducive the working environment is. All these play a significant role in shaping an individual's aspiration. For me personally, I think in the last 17 years of my professional career, I never really allowed gender bias to, impact my determination to succeed. I believe that we all, create our own unique journey. So breaking stereotypes and, traditional mindsets, we should. I mean, I personally believe, I would definitely dare to be different. I wouldn't really compare my journey or my path to any colleagues or a peer of mine. Yet I can tell you with a lot of confidence that I would definitely believe in showing up as my best self. Right. So apart from my career, I am a professional badminton player and had the honor of representing our country in World Masters. And I continue to pursue my passion to even today. I go for training every morning and I'm a fitness enthusiast. I am completely, I enjoy equestrian sport. So I think for me, apart from my professional career, I also manage a very healthy personal life, and sports has really helped me in my overall development. This has inculcated discipline, focus, developed competitive spirit in me. So I'm able to compartmentalize each of this and commit to succeed with a lot of passion. As women, I think we present a lot of electrifying source of strength and energy. Sometimes you have to be your own inspiration. That every person that you meet definitely teaches you something. So you draw strength from them. And I think overall, I think any work or even career for that matter is about self discovery, and it is about a fulfillment journey. So I think that's what it is for me.
Thank you so much, Deepa. You put it so beautifully. And I think one of the common traits that I'm noticing all of you have is that you have a very well-defined work-life balance. And you guys are not only exemplifying your role in your workplace, but in your personal life, you have achieved so much and you are continuing to achieve. And it's a remarkable thing. And I take this opportunity, while I've not discussed with you before, but if you will be open to taking some mentorship sessions in the due course, so that it doesn't become a one-day effort for us. And at ISF, I will definitely be taking pride if I can do even a little bit to change and bring all of you as role models and many more like you to the fora, who can talk, express, and show what they have actually achieved through their journey of work, through their journey in their personal lives. And Deepa, you and Tapsi, Sonal, Panini, Bhuvana, all of you have given so much inputs for me to think through. And I'm sure it's the same with all the listeners that we have today on and part of the audience. I have one question which I don't think even Government of India has found an answer to. But yes, we could definitely support if we can. And this would be the only question possibly that we'll take at this point of time. So at present, somebody's asked Kaberi Daha. At present, 19.9% women workforce in India is working. How will it grow? So let's have one round of answers from all of you. I'm not so concerned about the percentage, but yes, I'm concerned about how is it that we can bring more women to our industry, attract them to our industry, considering it is one of the, I would say, platinum fields that we have to nurture, grow, give opportunities to choose and balance their life, give them flexibility, everything a woman aspires for. I think we do have all the opportunities to provide them. So starting with Bhuvana, is there any inputs how to grow women participation in workforce?
I always say start them young girls, Suchita. So start having the conversation very early, because I don't think the industry has that kind of exposure that an IT industry has, or any other industry, the manufacturing, which is very a cliched set of industries that are out there, right? So start them young, have the conversations with the men as well to encourage the girls to, have that education and have the I speak to the vegetable vendor and, ensure I ask the girl, like, why are you not studying? And, it's not about, just having the conversation with that one person, but be part of those community initiatives where you're encouraging younger women to study more and get into, first of all, working, and then they can choose whichever industry they would want to be. I think those are the small tips.
Absolutely. Tapsi, if you were to give us some inputs.
Yeah, sure. See, question is that only the 3.7% the CEOs and the managing director as NSE listed company were the woman in the 2019. In number has increased just slightly, 3.2% in 2014. 8.9% have women the top of management positions. As 2019, just 29 companies, 5.8% of the Fortune India 500 list had a woman an executives role. Women make up only 31% of the CHRO role in the overrepresented in a woman countries such as US and South Africa. And only women accounts only for the 13.8% in the board of director listed in the companies of India. See, question is that our country from the since long past, we are very much give them the responsibility of the woman. We have to change our mindset. We have to change that. Yes, every woman have already automatically is a entrepreneur skilling have, right? as a woman, if you see in home, our mother, our sister is a very good, financer, very good homemaker. She will manage everything, right? So we have to set our mindset, and definitely we have to educate our, you can say the successor. We have to educate our, the young girls. We have to educate that, yes, come up, because every woman are entrepreneur by birth, right? So we have to give them an opportunity, not a job seeker, job provider, so that type of, I think, mentality we have to grow in our country.
Great. Sonal, could I invite your thoughts, please?
Sure. So, Suchita, I have always said that the problem of unemployment in India starts with the problem of education. So, whether it is men or women, but particularly since we are talking about the percentage of women in the workforce, I think if we want to increase that, we have to step back a little bit and address the problem of skilling and professional education of women. Women still are mostly encouraged to pursue, those academic courses which may or may not lead to employment. And of course, there is very little focus on technical, vocational, or skill development initiatives, especially for women. So if we want to have a bigger percentage of women in our Indian workforce, we have to look at sectors like manufacturing, technical sectors, because ultimately these are the sectors where majority of job creation will happen in the next decade or so. And we have to really have very strong skill development programs directed at young girls, so that they have the skills, which help them get a place in the job market tomorrow. Because just academic education, a bachelor's degree is not going to take the percentage of women that we have in our workforce from 20% to 40-50%. The countries, the Scandinavian countries in particular, which have a much healthier gender ratio within the workforce, that is how they have got there.
Absolutely agreed. Deepa, may I have your thoughts? And Panini, I'll come to you next. Last but not the least.
Sure, Suchita. I think whilst the percentage may not look very encouraging, but I think the very fact that we have come this far is an indication that there's a lot more that we can achieve together. I think it's truly important for us to really put in all our efforts to encourage many other young women, ensure that we guide them, provide enough opportunities to train them, and be a role model irrespective of what levels that we are at. I think that would be the probably the start to this journey. And moving ahead, I think a lot of organizations have made it an mandate to ensure that they have diversity and inclusion is also very encouraging, and that also adds to the success factor to it. Today, as we see during the pandemic, I think we saw many countries led by women managing the situation extremely better. So that is very re-emphasizing for us to know that this way, I think there is a lot more we could accomplish together, and especially women have the ability in them. It is not only in a particular sector of the industry, but I think that applies to any segment in the industry as general. I think that's where it is. So I think mentorship program, like you mentioned, that you would want to probably initiate in future, definitely is going to go a long way there. And continuous learning, I think, is also extremely important with this. I guess the percentage is just going to change in matter of few years, and we are looking forward to seeing that number change.
We are very hopeful that with the efforts that all of you will possibly be bringing into the table, and I'm sure with a lot more women who are willing to do it. Panini, may I have your thoughts how to increase the participation?
So I think the first thing is being realistic. That we are talking about generations and generations of conditioning. So it's not going to go away quickly, right? That's the first thing, because we will lose our energy and our motivation if we assume that a few forums, a few conversations, a few trainings is going to change this. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think the conversations have to broaden beyond women. So we have to bring in the men, and we have to make these conversations more inclusive. Okay, we have to have these conversations not just at work, but in our homes. We have to let our parents, our partners know what this career means to me, right? And solicit them as our cheerleaders and our supports and our mentors and our, and our journeymen and women. The third is organizations and leaders in those organizations. I would say that first, for the leaders, it is to start with, changing their beliefs and their subconscious biases. These are biases that we don't even know exist within us, and to make our leaders aware of these subconscious biases and how it plays out at workplaces. So in our organization at Aegis, we spent a considerable amount of time in leadership change, and that's very important. And then to look at interventions and programs. If we flip it, if we look at programs first and beliefs of leaders later, it's not going to work. So there are lots of programs, a lot of initiatives, but the initiatives and programs has to be systemic, it has to be systematic, it has to be long drawn, and it has to start with the self-awareness and belief change for leader. So multi-pronged.
Absolutely agree with you. All of you ladies have just given us the right pointers where we need to start or possibly continue, which has started by some of the leading enthusiast and inspiration leaders in the past. But I think somewhere the baton has to be carried forward, and more people who join to carry forward that baton, I think that's where the benefit lies for not only just our industry, across all industries, because there is a lot of potential that we can bring. And today we are not talking about just about gender diversity. We are talking about diversity, and the definition has multiple people who have been brought into that ambit. And Panini, while I thank you that you are leading some of those diversity programs yourself in your organization, and I thank Vishnu also, who's the director with Allegiance, who's been very vocal about bringing those discussions onto the ISF tables. But I think at least let's start with this gender diversity of making women more aware, be able to at least articulate and ask the questions without any fear of being judged. And I think the financial independence, which actually is one of the reasons of a career, become a little more defined than just looking at why do you want financial independence when your family is there to take care of you. I think that definition, if we can sway a little, I mean, there are many angles that women fight with, and we are just at the very tip of understanding what all they could be. And thank you, Bhuvana, thank you, Tapsi, Deepa, Panini, Sonal, for taking our time today to do this session with us. As I'm hoping, and I'm taking a promise from all of you, this will just be a start and not a one-off. And we are hopeful that we will continue to put in all the efforts to bring in more sessions and mentoring activities to ensure that at least our women leaders, who you are, can create and develop more role models for us to have a larger panel next time, or possibly more panels within the year. Thank you so much. I really had a wonderful time with all of you. And
Thank you so much, Suchita. Thank you. You are also the role model of many, right? And you are doing such a good and fabulous job. I have touched with you since long, and very closely, so I can understand. You did a fabulous job. Thank you, Suchita. You too, and happy Women's Day, you too.
Thank you, and happy Women's Day, happy Women's Time, because we are living in a great time where all our leaders are with us. And look forward to joining you guys again. Thank you.
Thank you, Suchita. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Look forward to joining you guys again.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Suchita. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the audience who have stayed with us as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, audience. Thank you.